Okay, so we are in the midst of the Agaritas. Um, we're mostly through the Shadim, and we're mostly through the Zugos, all the demons and the doubles. Just some practical halacha that came out from last night is we said that when we get a haircut or when we cut our nails, hey Stan, so when we cut our nails, when we get a haircut, we should take that cup of water and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we're just taking a beard trim or a shave, that's not enough hair coming off to warrant ruach ra, some type of evil spirit coming after us, so we do not have to wash. We also mentioned that a poor person that does not have enough money for 2 meals on Shabbos would be required to go to a tzedakah person to collect money. Ideally, the tzedakah person would give them enough money for 3 meals on Shabbos. But once the person can afford 2 meals on Shabbos, the person is not obligated to go to the tzedakah person for a 3rd meal. We're good enough with 2. But even so, both of these classes of people, even the ones that are too poor to afford 2 meals on Shabbos, they are still required to drink all 4 glasses of wine. And then we left off last night with the Agadata that they like to show all the teenagers to be mechazik them and shomer negia, not touching the opposite gender. So the Gemara basically said that you shouldn't get married to somebody that's been married before, because if you would have more people in the bedroom, it says, and it says that these 2 fingers, there's imagination, do not look alike. So I guess teenagers, be careful. All right. So we're starting from the top of Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis. We're gonna do 1 daf tonight, and then I have the review sheet, and I'll send that out again. In addition, with the halacha, so I have that letter from Rav Aaron Lopiansky to our children for the Seder, if you'd like that as well. So we're starting at the top. It says mitzvah beguf gadol ochel peiros below sachar. So a person that wants to do a mitzvah and they want to have a big body, it says, so what should they do? They should basically rent things out to people, let them borrow your stuff, and as collateral to make sure they come back, take their field and you'll get to eat fruits off of their field and you won't have to pay for it. So you do a mitzvah by lending to somebody, but you get food back for free. Then it says, mitzvah beguf tahor, if you want to do a mitzvah, but have a pure body, not a big body, but a pure one, so nose isha below banim. So you should marry a woman even if you already have children. We all know that there's a mitzvah, pru or vu, to have children. That's only on the man. Technically, a woman does not have the obligation to have children of her own. She helps the man fulfill that obligation. So it says that if a man wants to stay tahor, he wants to stay pure, well, he already fulfilled his obligation by having children. But still, to not succumb to sin, he should get married to a woman, and she'll help him, she'll help protect him. So that's a mitzvah, and you'll have a guf tahor, a pure body. Then it says, Arba Devarim Tzibur Rabbeinu HaKadosh Es Banav. 4 things Rabbeinu HaKadosh commanded his children. 1, Al Tider Kishenitziv. Don't live in a place called Shechnitziv. Why? Mishum delitzni havu umishachu lecha belitznusa. Basically, there's a bunch of leitzim over there, a bunch of not such good people, and you're going to be negatively influenced by their surroundings. It's best to live in a place with Talmidei Chachamim. That's what he's telling his sons. V'al tishiv al mitis aramis. You should not sleep on, or even sit on, it literally means the bed of a non-Jewish person. Okay? So 3 different ways to explain that statement. Igda Amri, some explain, the low tigni below kriyashma. What does it mean don't sit on a non-Jewish person's bed? Don't sit on a bed like a non-Jew. Make sure to say kriyashma before you go to bed. The Igda Amri, some say, the low tinsib gerusa, says that you should not marry a giores. You should not marry a convert from the land of Aram. She's an Aramis. So the Torah says that we're not allowed to marry women there for 10 generations after. we don't know what the lineage is today. We assume it's already been 10 generations. So it's always it's not a bad thing to marry a convert. It could even be the opposite. It could be considered a mitzvah. As the Torah says, to love gerim, to love converts, especially since they don't have any family of their own. Ve'igid amri, some explain it, a ramis mamish. It's really talking, do not marry a non-Jew. Umishum maisa de Rav Papa. There's a story with Rav Papa that basically he was going over to collect a debt from a non-Jewish woman, and she was nursing her baby at the time. He goes in and he waits on the bed while she's finishing nursing, and the non-Jewish lady basically accuses him of killing her child. So because of that, it says, don't go and sit on the non-Jewish lady's bed. Best to wait outside. So 3 different ways to explain that of something he's telling his son. The third thing that he tells his son is, do not escape from the tax collectors, IRS. You don't want to mess with them, right? Maybe they're going to catch on to you. And they're going to take everything, every cent to your name. Another one is, do not stand in front of a shore, in front of an ox, like a wild cow. Specifically at the time that the cow is coming up out of the lake. Specifically because the Satan, the evil devil, is dancing inside the horns of this ox and going to make him run after you. Amar Rabbi Shmuel, B'shor Shachor, Obiyomi Nisan. So Rabbi Shmuel says that's specifically talking about a black ox and during the days of Nisan. Tani Rabbi Yeshaya, Merachikin Mishum Cham, Mishum Tam, Chamishim Ama. If the ox is known what's called a tam, we learn Baba Kama. So he's not a registered gorer. He does not typically attack people. So you should stay 50 amos away from it. But if it's Mishur Muid, if it's from an ox that is used to goring and attacking people, Kamali Ainab, then you should stay as far away from this ox as you can so that you can't see him. Tanamash Shmei Rabbi Meir, Reish Torah B'dikula, Sak Le'igra, V'shadi Darga, Metuscha. So he says that if you see an ox running after you, what should you do? You should run up to your roof and basically throw the ladder down. You don't have to literally do that, says the Rashbam, but it's a statement saying, I'm not coming down until the ox is gone. And we don't have to be worried about the ox picking up the ladder and climbing up, because oxes don't usually do that. Amar Rav Niza, the Torah. So now we're talking about if there was like an evil spirit inside of an animal, and the animal is going to come to attack you. So there's a way that you could basically tame the animal. Others explain this Gemara is talking about ways that you can get the animal to do work for you. So you would snarl at the animal with different noises depending on what it is. Amar Rav, so Rav says, Niza de Tura, so the snarl to give to a shore, to give to an ox, is hain hain. That's what you say to it. Niza de Arya, zeh zeh. For the snarl of a lion, so you say zeh zeh. Niza de Gemala, da da. So for a camel, you would say da da. Niza de Arva. What about the snarl for a boat? The boat might come attack you. So it says, Hilni Chia, Hilni Vehiluk Hulia. Imagine saying these things to a boat. These things are, we can't even imagine it today. Amar Abaye, I think it was like a comic book strip if it weren't in the Gemara. So Amar Abaye, or dog, Bekos Chamin, Ubeitzin, Bekinim Levinim, Kulan Kasha Ledavar Acher. So Abaye gives a list. He says that leather and fish and some type of cup and hot liquids and also eggs and white lice. All these things usually bring danger of shadim, and that's going to bring saras to a person, the white leprosy that we read about in the Torah. All these things can cause that. We're going to explain each one a little bit more. It says, or when we said the skin or the leather of the animal, that's man degane amashcha ditzila. That's for the one that sleeps on the leather that's not tanned all the way. What about dog? When we said before, the fish, we're talking specifically dog shivuta b'yomei nisan. Some type of, the same fish we spoke about before, that aniyim, poor people, would make on Shabbos. Some type of fried fish, where they fry it in its own oil. So eating that in the month of Nisan would be problematic. Kos shiuri, kos deharsana. So the cup we were talking about before is some type of kos that they call the harsana. Chamin, when you spoke about hot water, it's chamimi de chamimi mishadari iluya. Is when you take extremely hot water and you start pouring it on you constantly, that could cause tsaras. Beitzim, when we talk about eggs, so man de midarach aklipim. That's for somebody that was walking on eggshells. Kidan levincha, when we talked about levanim, when we talked about the white lice, man de mechaber levushi. So that's the one that would wash their clothes. Lo naterle timni yomi. It used to be back in the day that you would wait for 8 days after you washed your clothes to wear them. But this guy washed them more than right away. And so that would basically strengthen some type of white lice. And that would bring a person leprosy. Saras. Amr Papa. Besa. Now we're on the first wide line of the Gemara. Hopefully it shared screen at the top. So it says, the isbe shunra lo nielba inish below masni. If you have a cat in your home, you should not walk barefoot. My timer, why not? Mishum dishunra katil lechivya, because usually what a good cat will do is they kill snakes. Bi'achile ve'isbe bechivya garmi katini, and they're going to basically eat the snake. They're going to leave the bones of the snake on the floor. And be'it yasiv la grama dechivya achroi. Then you're going to be walking on top of the bones. The bones are going to stick up into your foot. Lo nafik be'istakin le. They're not going to come out, and it could propose a danger to you. Igd Amri, others explain, Besa the leis shunra lo niel be inish. The exact opposite. In a house that does not have a cat, then that's when you should not wear shoes. Why? That's when you should wear shoes. Why? Now, why do you need shoes on? It says v'hachra, specifically in the dark. My timer. Why do you need shoes on? Dima michrich be chavya v'lo yada umistaki. Because maybe you're not going to see a snake in the dark, and the snake will come and wrap himself around your feet, and that would propose a lot of danger to you. So to protect yourself from that type of snake, you put on shoes, and somehow the snake wouldn't attack you. Then it says, Shlosha Devarim Sibi Rabbi Yishmael Bar Yossi as Rabbi. 3 things Rabbi Yishmael Bar Yossi commanded to Rabbi. 1, it says, Al tas mum ba'atzmecha. Do not make a mum, some type of gash on yourself. Mahi, what's that? Lo tivi lecha dina bahadi tlasa. Do not have a court case against 3 people. Dechad have a bal dincha, betray sahadi. Because basically one guy is going to say that something happened, and 2 guys are going to come and support it. I guess 2 guys would say that it happened to the 3rd. These 3 people are going to join together against you. Bi'al tamod ala mekach, b'shash ein lecha damin. And you should not have some type of sale if you do not have money to pay for it. Right? Last thing, it says, Ishtecha tavla al tizakik la laila harishona. When your wife comes back from the mikvah, you should not have tashmish with her that first night. Now that seems strange because it's usually the highlight when the woman comes back from the mikvah. So that's the night for tashmish. Answers the Gemara. Amar Rab ubanida de oraisa. We're speaking only about a nida de oraisa. According to the Torah, when a woman would be clean for 5 days, then she would go to the mikveh that night, and there would still technically be a chance that there might be dam, there might be blood coming out, and that would be a problem, which is why today we have what's called Sheba Nikiyim, where we wait for the 7 days after the 5 until the woman goes to the mikvah. But over here, if you didn't have that, so you should be careful of at least that first night when she comes back, because it says, Dima mashcha ziva, because maybe the blood is going to continue. So beware. Shlosha devarim siva Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda as Rabbi. 3 more teachings. Al tatzi yechid b'layla. Don't go outside alone at night. V'al tamod b'fnei haner arum. Don't stand in front of a candle unclothed, as we're going to explain a little more in a moment. V'al tichnas lemerchatz chadash. Don't go into a new bathhouse. Shema tichas. Because maybe if you go into a new bathhouse, then the floor is going to collapse as you're taking a shower. Okay, ad kama. How long are you supposed to wait though? Right? You're moving to a new home. You're not allowed to take a shower for how long? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, ad yod beis chodesh. You got to wait a whole 12 months. Then it says, al tamod b'fnei haner arum. As I said before, you should not stand in front of a candle unclothed. The Tanya, as it says in the Brisa, ha'omed b'fnei haner arum, having nichpa. If you would stand in front of a candle unclothed, it could cause epilepsy. A person to have some type of seizures. Also, this sounds a little familiar. If a person were to have tashmish in front of a candle, so then that could also cause the children that come from that act to also have epilepsy. So obviously it's better to have tashmish at night. If it were during the day, it would be preferable to have the blinds closed for this reason. This is something that even the Shulchan Aruch is makbid, is strict about. Then it says, Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hamishamish mitaso al mita shetinok yashin aleha also tinok nichpa. If a person were to have tashmish on top of a bed that a child was sleeping on, then that could cause that child to have epilepsy. Not a good idea for other reasons, but apparently epilepsy is would be another problem. However, v'lo amrin el delo havi bar shasa. That's only if the kid was not a year old. Al havi bar shasa leisan ba. If the kid is older than a year, then having tashmish on the bed with them would not be a problem. V'lo amrin ella de gani lahadi kurai. That's only if this child that's below a year during the tashmish was near your legs, that they would have epileptic problems. But if they were up by your head and not down by your legs, then it would not be a problem for epilepsy. And it would not be only be a problem if you're not holding them down, holding their head down with your hand. But if you were holding their head down with your hand, then even the 1-year-old or less than 1-year-old on the bed at the time of tashmish would not be affected. That says, "B'leili shabasos mipnei she'igeres bas machlasi." So, well, I think we skipped a line. So it says, "Al teiti yechidi b'layla." This is what we said before, that a person should not go out alone at night. Titania, we're going to quote a brisa. Lo yatsi yechidi b'layla, lo b'leili revi'is, v'lo b'leili shabasos. A person should not go alone at night on Wednesday nights, and also not on Friday nights. Why? Mipnei she'igeres bas machlasi. That those 2 nights, Wednesday night and Friday night, I guess Tuesday night and Friday night, would be a problem of the shadim coming to attack. B'shmona esrei ribo shel malachei chabala yod sayit. There are apparently 180,000 shadim that would come to you on Tuesday night and Friday night if you would walk alone by yourself outside. And each one of the 180,000 would have the ability to come attack you. Why is that? Well, Meikara, from the beginning, in the beginning of time, the Shadim really had power to come against you every single night of the week. But one night, so a certain shade met up, or was going to attack Rabbi Chananya ben Dosa. Amr lay, so she says to him, Ilav demachris alecha b'rikia is har b'chananya u'b'tarasus imanasei. So if it weren't for all of the angels up in Shemayim, up in the heavens, speaking about how great you were, so I would attack you. But they said, because you're such a great person, and you have so much Torah, so much merit, we don't have any power against you. Amar La, so the rabbi says back to her, Ichashivna b'rikia gozer ani alecha shelo ta'averi b'yeshuv la'olam. If this is true what you're saying, that I have so much power up there in the heavens, then you have to listen to me now. And I'm making a rule against you that you're not allowed to attack anybody from now on. The shade gets a little scared for a moment. Amr Lay, she says back to him, porta. Come on. This is my business over here. I like attacking people. So leave me a little bit to attack. So the rabbi says, fine. Shavak lately Shabbos lately Revius. So they decided Friday nights and Tuesday nights that a person could attack. At least Friday nights, hopefully once a person comes home from shul. So the Rashbam says that people would not be out as much. I don't know about Shabbos guests, but certainly people coming back home from work late at night, you didn't have. Vesu, so another time, a shade met up with Abaye. Amrele, she says to him, Ilav demachri alecha b'rikia, is harot benachameni ub'taraso havsekantich. Same thing as the last shade said to the other rabbi. This one says, if it weren't for them talking about you up in the sky, then you have a lot of danger. I could attack you, but your Torah is going to save you. Amrele, ichashivna b'rikia, gozarni alaychi, shelo tavorni b'yishuv la'olam. So this rabbi says the same thing. Must be the talking yeshiva. This is what you tell a shade. So the rabbi says, make sure not to attack anybody. That's the rule I'm putting against you. Ha kachazina de avra. So, but except one time, he saw this shade passing before him. I mean, honey, let's just flip the Amud here. One more for tonight. So, here we go. Let's see. It is loading. Site cannot be reached. Interesting.
It's possessed.
That's right. Let's try it one more time. This is going to be Daf 113. Always another website for Shas. There we go. Okay. So, saying at the top, so the rabbi who basically banned the shade from attacking people at any time, so he sees the shade running around. And they said, what are you doing? So they said, Gezisa ninhu dishamti susia. Basically, my horse ran away from me. This is the shade answers. So I had to run to go catch the shade. We also divrei lahu. So that's okay. But typically, the rabbi would not have allowed the shade to be running around freely. Okay. Second line. Amalei Ravasi. Lo tidur b'masa de lo sinif be susya. Since we're in the business of talking about horses, so now they say you should not live in a city that does not have horses neighing all the time. Lo novach ba kalba, and that you do not have dogs that will bark. Why? You need a security system. So, just practical advice. Maybe if you have ADT, then you don't need a dog or a horse to bark or to neigh, but you need some type of alarm. Next, it says, you should not live in a city that has a political leader that's a doctor, because the doctor is going to be too busy taking care of the common man, and he's not going to be dealing with political issues properly. Same thing we said about a daf or two ago, not to live in a city that is run by a rabbi, because the rabbi is going to be busy helping people for the other religious reasons, and not running politics. Next piece of advice, it says, below tansiv tarti, a person should not get married to two wives. One is enough. This is talking before technically you were allowed to get married to two women. You're allowed a man could marry as many women as he wanted to. It wasn't until later time in history when we moved out of the Arab culture and it became taboo amongst the Western society. And so we stopped from doing that. So the Gemara says that just practical advice, a man should not get married to two women. Basic idea is because that they're going to gang up on him and be causing problems. So it says, in the saptatarti, but what happens if you messed up and you didn't get married to two? You're supposed to give one a divorce? It says no. Nasif tlas. If you marry a third wife, so we're not scared that the three of them are going to gang up. Hopefully one of them will be your friend and two of them will attack you and the third wife will protect you from the other two. Interesting. That's not probably what I would have said. Amalei Rab, the Rav Kahana, hafach b'nivilasa below tipuch b'mili. So it says that you should basically flip over. Literally, it means flip over a carcass of an animal, like in a slaughterhouse, or it means to, I guess, fillet, take off the skin of an animal, and basically do not flip your words. As we say, Pashat Nevilsa Bashuka Bishakil Agra. A person should basically just do their work and then take their wage. Below Tema Kahana Ana Begava Rabba Ana. A person should not boast and say, wow, look what a great job I did. Just, if you have a job to do your job, take the paycheck, and that's it. And don't give a line and say, Visanya be Milsa, and say that this is such a disgrace to me. Because really there's no job that's below anybody's level. I know one of my Rebbeim in Yeshiva Greater Washington, his name is Rabbi Reingold. So before he became a Rebbe in the Yeshiva Gedola, he was a Rebbe for 8th grade. And he took students to Telz Yeshiva, where he had learned, and he took the 8th graders to Cleveland on a trip. They stopped at the yeshiva. They davened chakras there, and they were going to stay for learning in the morning. So they ate breakfast in the yeshiva. They're going through the breakfast line. He wouldn't tell us who it was, but apparently there was a very big Talmud Chacham that was serving the eggs. He had like a long beard and a big coat, and he's serving eggs to 8th graders. So he told the 8th graders, he said, you know who just got breakfast served? You just got served by Kol Terakula. That's who gave you eggs this morning for breakfast. And the idea is that if you want to become a big person, it's not about boasting yourself out and saying, look how great I am. But we're able to step down from whatever level we're on and say, if there's a job to do, I'm going to do it. And that's what it's saying here also. Best to just do the job, get it done, and don't boast about it, and don't say, what a disgrace this is for me. Then it says, Salkas Igra, if you want to take even a short trip, literally means if you want to take a trip to your roof. Your roof probably isn't so far, unless maybe you live in Manhattan, 50 floors up. So, Shiruscha Bahadrach Mea Kari, B'masa Bezuza Tutikan Fecha Ninu. So, even if the food there is so cheap, like let's say that it costs, that you get like something like 100 of some type of 100 of some type of food for a zuz, which is apparently very cheap. So you should still pack food anyway. A person should not, literally means don't drink a potion. We shouldn't be so regularized to resorting to medication as our first defense against getting sick. Okay, so again, we say don't take the Gemara's medical advice literally, but the Gemara is saying that we should not jump to medication. There's other things that we can do to help us from our sicknesses. Velo tishor nigri, and a person should not take big steps. Why? The Gemara in Shabbos explains that by taking large steps, then a person loses a certain fraction of their vision. It actually makes their eyesight worse. Scientifically, this is actually correct. once you start running, the faster you go, so you lose a little bit of your peripheral vision until all you see is the tunnel vision. The Gemara in Shabbos gives us a recommendation that if you want to get your vision back, then you should look into your Shabbos candles on Friday night. And somehow the light, it restores the vision that you lost. And I think the idea behind it is that sometimes we run through our lives during the week and we just go from this to that to the other and we don't really think about it until we look into candles Friday night on Shabbos and we come to when everything else stops and we're finally able to think about what we're doing in this place. So we get, metaphorically, we get our vision back and we get a re-clarity on what we're doing in this life. So as the Gemara is saying here, don't take big steps, whether that's literally or it's metaphorically. Okay, that's what it says. Below ta'akar kaka, you should not rip out a loose tooth. Below takna bechivya, you should not provoke a snake. Below takna ba'arama, and you should also not provoke a non-Jewish person. Maybe they would come attack you. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. We are on the first big line right here. Taner Rabbanan, ein miskanin bahu, shlosha ein miskanin bahu. There's 3 types of people that you're not supposed to provoke. Be'elohein, here they are, ready? Nachri katan, a small person that is a non-Jew, so like a non-Jewish child. Benachash katan, also a small snake. Also betalmud katan, a smaller student. My taima, what's the reason why you shouldn't bother these people? Well, you think they're small today, but demilchusayu achrei adonayu koi. They're going to grow up one day and they're going to bully you back. So whether that's a little sibling or it's a student, whatever it is, they're little today, everybody grows up and they're going to come right back at you. So watch out. Amli Rav Aviv, Amar Rav Evo, Brei Tarchi. So Rav is saying to Evo, his son, Bach b'shmaitza below mistayi. Rabbi is saying to his son, I tried to teach you Torah, and it did not work. Well, ta agmeracha mili de alma. So now instead, I'm going to teach you wisdom of the world and how to succeed in business. So we see here sort of a Haredi, ultra-Orthodox sort of mindset that we educate the children only in Torah, and then if something doesn't work out and they can't go down the main path, then that's when we break out the secular studies and we educate them in that so they can be successful in life some other way through business. So there's different hashkafas, obviously. Some say that the secular is not secular, that there's really Torah in every single thing that we do, right? So, but there are people that go to much greater, higher levels in Torah, and to attain that, so they have to be surrounded by Torah all the time. So he tried to teach his son, it didn't work. Now he says, okay, fine, I'll teach you something a little bit about business. It says, Adecha achrecha zvincha. So if you want to make a business deal with somebody, so zvincha zavin kol mili, you should always make, if sales, says zavin b'tischaret ba. Some of them you're going to have regret over. Every businessman makes a deal that he later comes to regret. However, mechamra dezavin below ticharet. If you sell wine and then later you come to regret it, wow, I could have probably sold the wine a little bit more for more money than I got. Don't regret taking the wine. Don't regret selling the wine, because if you would have waited longer, maybe the wine would have spoiled into vinegar and become sour and you couldn't have sold it. So better to take the money that you got. Next, says the rabbi to his son, Shari kischa pasach sakecha. A person should, when making a sale, first open up their wallet, get the money first, and then give over the merchandise. Don't give over the merchandise first, because maybe the guy's going to make a run for it. Next, kava ma'ara below kura me'igra. It would be better for a person to make one kav, a unit of money, in his own place, rather than to have to travel. And even if you would earn 180 kav, which is a core, it's not worth it. You always see families that the husbands or the wives, they're traveling back and forth on an airplane. So everybody does what they have to do, and the kids make it out okay, Baruch Hashem. But the Gemara is saying if you have a choice, it would be better to stay at home with your family and not have to travel, even if it's for more money. It says, Tamra bechaluzcha lebayis. So, lebayis sudna. If you have a container, you're collecting some sort of dates, so you're supposed to bring them lebayis sudna to the brewer immediately so that they turn into, I guess you turn them into maybe some type of beer, into like a date beer. So it says, lebayis sudna rahit, you're supposed to run there, because what's the fear? If you don't run your dates to the brewery, so you're going to eat them. And you'll enjoy it, but you're going to lose out money, what you could have made, turning it into beer. Bi'ad kama, how much should you continue to keep bringing to the brewery until you can start eating for yourself, if you're in the beer business? Amarava, ad tlasa sa'a. 3 saw, which is about 932 eggs worth. That would be an amount that a brewery would have on tap before they could start profiting, leaving the profits for themselves. I don't know, we could contact Sam Adams and see if they have a certain amount, but that's what the Gemara says. Rav Papa says, Ilo de Ramai Shechra lo is asri. If I did not become a brewer, starting brewing my own beer, that I would never become rich. Igda Amri, others say that Amr Chista. It was actually Rav Chista that said that. Ilo de Ramai Shachra lo is asri. If I didn't become a brewer, then I would not become rich. My sudna, why do we call the brewer a sudna? It's actually a contraction. It's a combination of words. Amr Chista, sod na'eh. It's a nice secret. You know, every brewer has their secret on how to make the best brewer. So that's why they call it sudna, because it's a sod na'eh. It's a nice secret. Also, the gemilus chasadim. A brewer, when they become rich, they make it big time, they're able to give a lot of chesed to other people. Amr Papa, kol agav gavya, by kol ashray. Any loan that you give, you need to take back with credit. The only problem is that safek asi, safek lo asi. When you give out a loan to people, maybe they'll pay back, and maybe they won't. And also, v'dois mos ros ninu. For sure, they're going to be paying you back with what's called a mos ros. Literally means bad, evil payments. So the Rashbam explains that they'll pay back $1 here and $1 there. And because $1 doesn't seem so great, so you're not really going to hold it as their loan. You'll just put it in the vending machine, do whatever you do with $1. And it's like you never got paid back. So going into a business, giving out loans, at least according to this, is not seen as such a profitable operation. Next, Shlosh Devarim Am Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Anshi Yerushalayim. Rabbi Yochanan said 3 things in the name of the people of Yerushalayim. Kisha'ata Yotz L'Mechama, when you go out to war, practical advice for soldiers. Al Teita B'Rishona, you should not go out first to be on the front line. They're the first to get shot. Ella Teita B'Acharona, Kadesh Tichnas B'Rishona. Rather, if you want to be a successful soldier, you should stay in the back. That way, when your army turns around to run away, you'll be the first one to leave. You should, as we said before, if you're very poor, so it would be better to make your Shabbos into like a Tuesday and not have to go to a Gabet Tzedakah, a Tzedakah collector, to provide for you. We said that's only talking about if you have above 2 meals, but if you have less than 2 meals, of course, go to the tzedakah collector. So Tosfos over here, he asked a very interesting question. He says, actually, we just learned this in 5th and 6th grade this week. I see Will on the screen. So we learned there's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says the following, that a person's income is set from Rosh Hashanah. Last Rosh Hashanah, we already found out how much money we're supposed to have this year, about the raises and the layoffs, already decided. Can't change it. However, for 3 things, Hashem will either give you more money or take it away. Our expenses for Shabbos, our expenses for Yom Tov, and also our expenses for Talmud Torah, for Jewish education. So if we go to Big Y and we see chicken for $20 and we see meat for $30, and we decide, well, we do like meat better. We want to be a cheapskate. So I'll go with the chicken instead. You can't win. Hashem will take that $10 away from your income. It was already set. Last Rosh Hashanah, no. For the expense of Shabbos, Hashem can take it away. And it works in the opposite as well. I give an example to a student. She really wants to go to MIT, right? And I told her, what happens if you go flip out in Israel and you want to come back and go to Stern, right? Stern College and Yeshiva University. It might be a little bit more expensive than MIT. I'm not sure. We can look at the price tag. But for this case, let's say it is. And so Hashem will work out more money in order that you can go to Stern. So as Tosfos over here, so why do we say you should make your Shabbos like a Tuesday? If Hashem is going to raise your income so that you can get more money, then what are we saying over here? Make your Shabbos like a Tuesday. Tosfos answers that we're talking about two different types of people. One is the person that goes in there. They can afford the $30 of meat. They decide to get the $20 of chicken instead. That's when Hashem will take it away. Or something that's within budget, that to spend the extra $10 on the meat, it's manageable. That Hashem will give extra money. But a person that's not shaykh, a person that doesn't really, mamash, does not have enough money, so that is when we say, Asi Shabbat Chachol, Ve'al Titzarech L'Brius, that you should make your Shabbos into a Tuesday and not bother other people. Next, it says, you should only deal with people that you know are probably going to give you a good business operation. As we said before, you know they're going to pay back on time. You know they're not going to take you for a ride. Three more things that Rabbi Yoshua said in the name of the people of Yerushalayim. Al tirbe begagos, you should not spend a lot of time on, or it says beginos, but the Masaras Hashas changes it to gagos. You should not spend a lot of time on your roof. Why? Mishum ma'aseh shehaya, because of a story that happened. The Rashbam explains this is talking about David HaMelech with Bathsheba. Bathsheba was on her roof, basically taking a bath, and that's when David basically fell in love with her. She was a married woman already, so David ends up sending her husband to war. And the way it worked in those days is you would give a get, you would give a divorce document before you went out to war. And it basically says that if I die, then you, my wife, are divorced from right now. So it's like a retroactive divorce. So technically, when David went to go get married to Bathsheba, then she was technically still married. Only later, after her husband died, retroactively, then she was not married anymore. So it's like a sort of Back to the Future phenomenon over here. But it all started from being out on the roof. So it says not to be on the roof. And my wife, she was just told me this morning in the car, we're talking about this. So it said that a lot of the lineage with Mashiach is a little bit sketchy. We have also Rus, she's a convert. So there is a convert coming into the lineage bringing Mashiach. So she told me, she said that because Hashem wanted to make the lineage a little bit sketchy, because the Satan, the devil, then does not have the power to come and mess it up, because it's already sketchy anyway. But it's towing the line, but it doesn't cross. Next, Bitcha Bagra Shechar Abdecha. If you have a daughter and she gets to the age of a Bogeres, I think around 11 and a half, maybe 12, somewhere around there, so you should get her married right away. If she doesn't have anybody to marry, better to shachar abdecha. It's better to free your slave, v'tainla, and then give her to your slave in order that she should be taken and she's not left alone. V'havi zarb ishtecha mechasna harishon. You should be worried about your wife from your first son-in-law. So if your first daughter that gets married, and we're going to a lot of weddings this week, Gene. So it says that the son-in-law should, the first son-in-law you have to watch out for with your wife. Why? My taima. Rav Chisda Amar Mishum Erva, that your wife is going to have a thing for her first son-in-law. Childhood dream. Rav Gahara Amar Mishum Mamam. It's because that she's going to love the son-in-law so much, she's going to keep flowing money onto him because she's so happy that he took her daughter. Well, havaha isnahu. It says that both of these reasons are reasons that you should watch out for your wife around your first son-in-law. So make sure that she doesn't play around with him too much, and also make sure that she's not opening up her wallet too much. Amar Rav Yochanan, Shlosha menuchli ha'olam haba. There's 3 people that merit olam haba, the next world. Elohein. What are they? Hadar be'eretz Yisrael. If a person lives in Eretz Yisrael, then they merit the next world already. There's a famous Tosfos in the Gemara in Ksubis. He says that in order to live in Eretz Yisrael, that you need to know the mitzvahs of Trumas and Meisers, on how to take Truma and Meiser away from the certain ties off of your produce. We don't have that in America. It's a mitzvah only relevant in Eretz Yisrael. Tosfos says if you don't know the laws of Truma and Meiser, go home. There's no mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. The idea of living in Eretz Yisrael is not just to be around Jewish people, but is to spend time with the Shekhinah, God's presence. And that's what gives you Olam Haba. So today, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of different hashkacha, kosher organizations that do it for you. So you don't have to worry about that Tosfos, but still, it would be better if we learned ourselves. It says, if you grow your child to love Talmud Torah, to love learning, whether that's they spend the next 20 years in Kollel, or at least as they go throughout their life, they're learning Torah, then you have a spot in the next world. Lastly, if you make Havdalah on wine. Now, what's such a big deal about that? It says, if a person would leave over some of the wine from Kiddush, specifically for Havdalah, so then that's when you would merit the next world, if you didn't have enough wine already. Last little bit. Rabbi Yochanan, there's 3 different types of people that Hashem makes announcements about every day for being such a good person. Number 1, al ravik hadar bekrach be'enochotet, on a bachelor, an unmarried man that lives in the city by himself and he does not sin. That's very praiseworthy. If a poor person would return a lost object and instead of taking it from himself, so the rabbis speak very highly of that. And if a rich person would take away the tithes of Truma and Meiser and do it in hiding, so that they're only going to get credit from Hashem, but not necessarily for ulterior motives of having other people look up to him. So we're going to stop it there for tonight. I'm just going to do a different share screen with the Word document of what we've been working on this week. So here we go. That's okay. Here it is. So at the beginning of the week, so we said washing our hands before Kiddush. That would mean we don't want to make Kiddush on wine. We want to make it on challah. We have the availability to make it on challah. Better to do that only Friday night. Shabbos day, we would rely on something called Chamer Medina, whether that's beer, orange juice, coffee, Jack Daniels. So we say that can be used for benching and day Kiddush, and also Havdalah during the 9 days when wine is not around. You have to taste Mali Lugmav, a cheekful for Kiddush, we said, and your company needs to hold a Revius, which is 4.4 ounces, maybe 5.3, and on the Rabbanan mitzvahs, like the extra cups at the Seder after the first one, 3.3 ounces would be good enough. It's best to get a smaller cup so that you can drink the whole thing, or at least half, than to get a bigger glass and not finish. Next, we said all 4 cups of wine and eating matzah require hiseba, leaning on your left side. 2 reasons, so that even if you're a lefty, then it still comes out you should lean on your left as well. A married woman does not need to lean in front of her husband, according to the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch, unless she's an Isha Chashuva. The Ramah says that all women today are an Isha Chashuva, they're all important, but because we have the Rav Yah that say that nobody really leans today, 2 strikes against her, that married women do not have to lean. But again, ask a posei. We said there's a special mitzvah to get the kids a nap, Erev Pesach, before the Seder, so they stay awake. By age of 6 or 7, they should have a glass of grape juice, small, right? We want to keep them engaged. If a question, give them a candy or nuts. We want to give out the Masar to them and start it as early as possible, around 50 minutes after Seis HaKochavim, 50 minutes around after sunset. Then we said Seder night, it's called Leil Shimurim, a night that HaKadosh Baruch Hu guards us. So if we want to lock our door, leave it unlocked, okay, maybe we will. We only have to say Hamapil with one parsha of Shema. And we also said there's no reason to worry about Zugos, drinking even numbers of glasses, or Shadim, different demons attacking us, because we don't believe them. And then today, but why do we learn it? So according to my wife, there are undercurrents of the universe that are beyond our comprehension, like God himself. We also said washing our hands after a haircut or cutting nails, we talked about already. And tonight, something that we said was that although yesterday we said 2 Shabbos meals, a person should not go to the Gabei Tzedakah to get more money. But if you have less than 2 meals, you should. So Tosfos asks, our yearly salary is already fixed except for Shabbos, Yontif, and Talmud Torah, Jewish education. So wouldn't Hashem give us any more money? And we said, no, it's only within certain means, but not something that's out of a person's reach. And just, I'm going to send this out, but in case you're interested, you want to read this to your own children or your own grandchildren, or send it to them at the Seder. So this is the letter that we read of the what we want to say to our children on Seder night. Okay, so we have just about maybe one Amud to go on Sunday, and then we're going to get back into the Seder, and we'll have one more week, maybe an extra day, and then that's going to be the end of the parak. It's very exciting.
Shkoyach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry I'm late. I have a prior Shiur engagement,
No problem.
but then I got here as soon as I could. All is good. Shkoyach. Now it's
A
time
lot
for
of
dinner.
shiurim. That's great.
Very good. Tishkach, thank you very much.
I just try to be as good as Rob. That's all. Bye.
What was that? Oh, no, I came late too, so we were late together. I had a meeting.
Thanks everybody for coming. I know it's very hard. Night after night, it's very impressive.
Have a good job.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good
All right,
night.
good Shabbos.
Shabbos,
Good night,
everybody.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
All right.
Bye-bye.